I have to say, looking at the stack of notes we have for today, I almost hesitated to even pick up the book they're based on.
Really? Why is that?
Well, you see the title, Psycho Cybernetics, and it screams 1950s sci-fi to me.
Oh, totally.
It sounds like something involving ray guns or robots taking over the government,
Hmm.
or maybe just a very complicated instruction manual for a washing machine. It's intimidating.
It really is. It has that cold, metallic, mid-century ring to it. But I think that's actually one of the great ironies of literature.
Oh, so?
Because this book, with the most robotic title imaginable, is arguably one of the most deeply human guides to happiness ever written.
It's deceptive, and I think that's exactly why we need to do this deep dive today, because if you get past that cover, what you find isn't a treatise on robotics at all, it's a manual for the human mind.
Right.
Specifically, it's about how to operate your subconscious so that you are the one running it rather than it just running you.
Precisely. And just to orient everyone listening to this is a massive topic. Dr. Maxwell Maltz, the author, he packed so much into this text that we decided we really couldn't do it justice in one go.
Definitely not.
So consider this episode 1 of a series covering this book. Today, we're going to basically tear down the engine and see how it works. Then in the next deep dive, we'll get into the specific buttons you press to actually drive the car.
I love that. Let's pop the hood. And I think we have to start with the author himself, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, because his background is the perfect setup for the hook of this entire philosophy.
It really is.
He wasn't a psychologist, he wasn't a priest, he wasn't a life coach or anything like that.
No, he was a plastic surgeon. And that is a really critical distinction to make early on. He wasn't dealing with people's souls, well, at least not intentionally. He was dealing with their faces. He was fixing noses, pinning back ears, removing scars.
Right. He was entirely in the business of external transformation. And this is where he stumbled upon what he called the plastic surgeon's paradox. This is the thing that kept him up at night.
It's such a fascinating observation. I mean, imagine you are Dr. Maltz. You have a patient who is incredibly shy, reclusive, maybe even thinks they're totally unlovable because they have, say, a very large nose.
Okay.
They believe this one physical feature is the source of all their misery. So Maltz operates. The surgery is a technical masterpiece. The bandages come off, and the mirror reveals a classically beautiful face.
And for some people, that was it, right? Problem solved.
Yes. For many, the psychological transformation was instant. The physical block was removed, and their personality just flooded out. They became confident, they got promotions, they got married. The outside changed, so the inside changed.
But then there was the other group, the group that just didn't make any sense.
The ugly ducklings. These are the patients who had the exact same successful surgery. The nose was perfect. But they would come back to the office a month later, and they were still acting exactly the same.
Wow.
They were still shy. They were still terrified of rejection. In some cases, they literally couldn't see the change in the mirror.
That is the part that blows my mind. The notes mention that some patients actually accused the doctor of faking the surgery.
Yeah, they felt he was gaslighting them. Their family would say, "You look beautiful," and they would interpret it as pity or a lie. And Maltz realized something that completely changed the trajectory of his career. You can reconstruct a physical face, but if the interface remains scarred or distorted,
The person will continue to act like they are ugly.
exactly, they won't be able to help it.
And that interface is what we are calling the self-image.
That's the core concept, the self-image. And it's not just a feeling. It's not just self-esteem in the casual way we use that word today. Maltz defines it as a premise. It's a foundational belief system that dictates the sort of person I am.
A premise. That's a strong word. Because in logic, if your premise is false, your conclusion will always be false no matter how good your logic is.
Exactly. And the brain takes the self-image as a fact. If your self-image is, I am the type of person who fails at public speaking. You can take speech classes, you can memorize your lines, you can wear a nice suit. But the moment you step on that stage, your internal premise says, wait a minute, this doesn't match the blueprint.
So what happens?
Your nervous system will actively work to make you fail, just to align reality with the blueprint.
That brings up the thermostat analogy, which I think helps explain why willpower is so often useless against this stuff.
The thermostat is the perfect metaphor for this. Let's say your internal self-image is set to 70 degrees of financial struggle. That is your baseline. That's where your subconscious thinks you belong.
Okay.
Now, suppose you use sheer willpower to work harder. You get a lucky break. You make a windfall of cash. The temperature in your life suddenly rises to 90 degrees of success.
Which should be a good thing. We all want to be at 90 degrees.
Consciously, yes, of course.
Yeah.
But your internal mechanism sees it as an error. It says, alert, we are overheating. We are operating outside of established parameters.
So the AC kicks on.
The AC kicks on. You might suddenly make a really bad investment. You might pick a fight with your boss. You might just feel an inexplicable anxiety that forces you to retreat. You unconsciously self-sabotage to cool the room back down to 70 degrees.
That is terrifying, honestly. But it explains so much. It explains why lottery winners go broke. It explains why we snap back to our old habits 2 weeks after New Year's. We are trying to change the temperature without changing the dial on the wall.
Exactly. And the source material uses a biblical phrase that Maltz was fond of. You cannot put new wine into old bottles. You can't force a success habit into a failure identity. The bottle will just burst.
Yeah.
You got to change the container first.
So we have this blueprint. It's set by our past, our childhoods, our failures, our humiliations, and we are just obeying it blindly. But this leads us to the cybernetics part of the title, because Maltz wasn't just talking about psychology here. He was borrowing from the cutting-edge science of his day, which was missile guidance.
Right. And we need to be careful here because nobody wants to be told they are a robot. Maltz is very clear about this. Man is not a machine. But man has a machine.
Okay, distinguish that for us.
You are the captain. The subconscious mind is the vessel. Specifically, it functions as a servo mechanism.
A servo mechanism. See, that sounds like a car part.
It basically is. In engineering, a servo mechanism is an automatic goal-seeking device. Think of a self-guided torpedo or a modern cruise missile.
Okay, so how does a cruise missile actually find a target? It doesn't just fly in a perfectly straight line, right?
No, and this is the nuance that usually gets missed when people talk about this book. A missile doesn't know the exact path. It knows the target. It starts moving. Then its sensors say, you are too far to the left, so the rudder corrects to the right. Then it says, now you are too far to the right, so it corrects back to the left.
It zigzags.
It zigzags all the way there. This is called negative feedback. The mechanism absolutely uses its errors to find the way. It needs the mistakes to calibrate the path.
That is a huge reframe, because we usually think of mistakes as failures. But in a cybernetic system, mistakes are literally just data.
Exactly. The torpedo doesn't get depressed when it's off course. It doesn't say, oh, I'm such a loser, I'm off by 5 degrees. It just corrects. But we humans, when we make a mistake, we attach shame to it. We stop the machine entirely. We refuse to let the negative feedback guide us. We just let it crush us.
So our internal machine works the exact same way.
Yes. Your subconscious is designed to hunt down goals. But here is the catch, and this is probably the most important thing we'll talk about today. The machine is impersonal.
Impersonal. It doesn't care about you.
It doesn't care if the goal is good or bad. It doesn't have a conscience. It's like a computer. If you type in a command to delete all your files, the computer doesn't say, hey, are you sure? That seems kind of self-destructive. It just executes the code.
So if I feed my servo mechanism a goal of, I'm going to embarrass myself at this party tonight, it interprets that as a literal command.
It interprets it as a target. It says, okay, the target is social awkwardness. I can do that. I will increase your heart rate. I will make your palms sweat. I will make you stutter.
It's functioning as a failure mechanism, but it's doing it successfully.
It is operating perfectly. That's the tragedy of it. People who fail chronically actually have a very high-functioning servo mechanism. They're just giving it the wrong coordinates.
There is a story in the source material that illustrates this interpretation issue so well. The story about the fencing scar versus the car accident scar.
Oh, the German university students, yes. This is a classic example of how input changes the machine.
Set the scene for us on that one.
So Maltz describes the culture of German fencing societies in the past. In that specific context, getting your face slashed in a duel was a badge of honor. It proved you were brave. It proved you were a man of status.
So a guy walks out with a massive gash on his cheek.
And he loves it. His self-image expands. He struts around. He feels more confident. The physical disfigurement is actually a trigger for pride. His servo mechanism gets the data. We are a warrior.
Now, take that exact same physical injury, the same cut, the same scar tissue, and put it on a modern driver who goes through a windshield in a car accident.
The interpretation is totally different. They look in the mirror and think, I am disfigured. I look like a monster. People will stare. The self-image contracts. They become a recluse.
The event was the same. The biology was the same.
But the meaning the target fed into the machine was opposite. One said pride, one said shame. The machine just executed the behavior that matched the meaning.
This really drives home the point that we aren't reacting to reality. We are reacting to our interpretation of reality.
Always.
But this brings us to the difficult part, the how. because I can hear you listening right now saying, okay, great, I have a machine. I've been giving it bad data for 30 years. I want to change. I'll just decide to change today.
And that's the trap.
Yeah.
You can't just decide with your intellect. We already established that the self-image is much deeper than intellect. It's deep in the midbrain. You can't lecture yourself into confidence.
You can't stand in front of a mirror and debate your depression away.
No. The self-image is formed by experience. You learn to be afraid of failure because you experienced failure. You learn to be shy because you experienced rejection. So logic doesn't touch it. Only experience can override experience.
But this feels like a catch-22. If I need a success experience to change my self-image, but my current self-image causes me to fail, how do I ever get that first win? I'm just stuck in a loop.
This is where Psycho Cybernetics drops the atomic bomb. This is the insight that launched the entire sports psychology industry, visualization, all of it.
What is the insight?
Synthetic experience.
Synthetic experience. Break that down for us.
Experimental psychology and neurology have proven something incredible. The human nervous system cannot tell the difference between an actual physical experience and one that is vividly emotionally imagined.
Wait, it literally cannot tell the difference.
Not functionally, no.
Yeah.
If you hook someone up to an MRI and have them vividly imagine playing a piano concerto, and I mean vividly, feeling the keys, hearing the notes, the exact same parts of the brain light up as if they were actually playing the piano.
So the brain records it as a real event.
It creates the same neural pathways.
Yeah.
It builds the same engrams in the gray matter. This gives us a backdoor into the machine. You don't have to wait for the real world to hand you a success. You can manufacture a synthetic experience of success in your mind.
And the servo mechanism accepts that data.
It accepts it as valid history. It says, oh, we've done this before. We are good at this. So when you actually walk into the meeting or the date or the game, you aren't doing it for the first time. You are drawing on a memory of success that you created yourself.
That is wild. It's almost like hacking the system. You're inputting a cheat code.
It is hacking the system. But the key word here is vivid. It's not just daydreaming. It's not just passively saying, I wish I was rich. It's constructing the reality in high fidelity.
No, I know some people struggle with this. They'll say, I have no imagination, I can't visualize. And I love the benchmark the book gives for this because it sets the bar so incredibly low.
It does. Maltz says, if you can remember, worry, or tie a shoe, you can succeed.
The tie a shoe rule.
It's brilliant. Think about worrying for a second. What is worrying?
It's just thinking about stuff going wrong.
It is high-definition visualization of a negative goal. If you are a chronic worrier, you are actually an elite athlete of imagination.
Yeah.
You are sitting there picturing a disaster. You feel the knot in your stomach. Your heart races. You are creating a physical reaction to an image in your head.
So you're using the synthetic experience perfectly. You're just using it to practice failure.
Exactly. You are rehearsing the disaster so that when it happens, you're ready to fail perfectly. So the argument that I can't visualize is false. If you can worry, you have the equipment. You just need to point the lens in the other direction.
And the shoe tying part.
That's about the feeling of success. You don't need to conjure up the feeling of winning a Nobel Prize if you've never won one. You just need to remember the feeling of doing something correctly. The simple satisfaction of tying a shoe, the click of a door closing, you take that feeling that I did it feeling and you map it onto the new goal.
So we're talking about very small, manageable mental shifts, not magic.
No magic at all. Mechanics. It's about practice. In the next episode, we're going to break down the specific relaxation techniques Maltz prescribes, because you can't do this while you're stressed. Stress jams the machine completely.
Right, you have to be relaxed to access the subconscious. But before we wrap up this first part, I want to hit the power quote for this deep dive. There was one line in the text that I think really anchors why this self-image concept is the bottom line for everything.
Yes, it's the statement on the nature of reality itself. Maltz writes, the self-image is a premise, a base, or a foundation upon which your entire personality, behavior, and circumstances are built. This is the way we perceive reality.
This is the way we perceive reality. He's saying we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are.
We view the world entirely through the lens of our blueprint. If your blueprint says people are hostile, you will see aggression in a friendly wave. If your blueprint says I am capable, you will see opportunity in a disaster. The world is neutral. The self-image is the interpreter.
And he adds that very hopeful corollary to it. When you expand the self-image, you expand the area of the possible.
That's the whole mission here. We are trying to expand the area of the possible. We're trying to push back the walls of the box we put ourselves in.
It brings us right back to that fundamental idea of humans as goal strivers. We are biological hunters. We need a target.
We do. And I think that's the most important takeaway to sit with today. When you have no goal, or when your goal is ambiguous, you don't just feel neutral, you feel bad. You feel anxious. Because that beautiful, powerful servo mechanism is just spinning its wheels. It's an engine designed to move, and idling destroys it.
So aimlessness is actually unnatural for us.
It is. Happiness isn't a destination you arrive at and just stop. Happiness is a manner of traveling. It's the sensation of moving toward a goal.
That is a profound thought to end on. Happiness is the hum of the machine working properly.
Exactly. So if you are feeling stuck, or if you feel like you're constantly fighting yourself, the question isn't, what is wrong with me? The question you need to ask yourself is, what target is my servo mechanism currently locked onto?
Because it is locked onto something.
It's always locked onto something. It's either locked onto a vision of where you want to go, or it's locked onto a memory of a past failure. And the machine is running 24/7.
So check your coordinates.
Check your coordinates. And if you don't like where the missile is headed, don't blame the missile. Change the target.
I love that. And that is exactly what we are going to do in part 2 of this series. We are going to look at the theater of the mind, the specific drills, and the daily habits to actually reprogram those coordinates.
It gets very practical from here on out.
So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notified the second episode 2 drops. You're really going to want to have the manual for this machine. Thanks for diving in with us today.
See you next time.